We all know how important it is to keep a roof over our heads, right? But let's be real for a second. Keeping that roof in good shape, and the rest of your house for that matter, can really put a dent in your wallet.
It's a huge expense, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. And, here in Virginia, we found that something like 15% of homeowners have actually had to put off those much-needed repairs.
Wow, 15%, that's a lot of people.
And when you dig into the reasons why, well, money is the main culprit for more than half of them.
Not surprising, sadly. Those costs can really add up fast. It's not just about living with a leaky faucet or drafty windows either. These small issues can easily snowball into bigger problems down the road.
You're telling me. And not only is it inconvenient, but it can even become a safety hazard. So for today's deep dive, we're tackling a topic that might surprise you. We've been digging deep into home improvement and repair programs here in Virginia. And let me tell you, the sheer number of programs out there is pretty mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing is right. We're talking over 160 different resources.
Over 160. So that's what we're diving into today. We want to help you navigate this maze of options and figure out where you might be able to find some assistance. Because no matter your situation, whether you're on a tight budget, living in a rural community, a senior, a veteran, or someone with accessibility needs, there's a good chance there's a program out there for you.
There really is. It's amazing to see the effort from all levels, federal, state, even local communities, to try and help people keep their homes in good shape.
Right. So let's break down where the funding for these programs comes from. There's a few major players. Federal programs like HUD, state-level initiatives right here in Virginia, community organizations doing amazing work, programs specifically for rural homeowners through the USDA, and last but not least, initiatives from counties and cities themselves.
And don't forget, those local programs, your county or city, are going to be your main point of contact. That's where you'll actually apply and work through the process, even if some of the funding is coming from the federal or state level.
So that local connection is key. It's not about trying to find one specific program for every little repair either.
Right. A lot of these programs offer a broader range of assistance. So if you need a roof repair, you don't necessarily have to find a roof repair grant. There might be several different programs that could help with that. It's not as narrow as you might think.
And speaking of finding help, I bet a lot of you are wondering, can I really get a substantial amount of assistance? Like, is a $10,000 grant actually possible?
Well, I'm happy to tell you, yes, it definitely can be.
Yes. And what about those free grants everyone talks about? Are those just a myth?
Not entirely. There are some grant options out there, especially when the repairs are needed to address major health or safety concerns or to improve accessibility.
So those are out there. And who usually qualifies for this kind of help?
While all homeowners in Virginia technically could be eligible for some kind of assistance, it's important to remember that resources are limited. So priority is often given to those with the most pressing needs. Seniors, veterans, people with disabilities, and households that meet certain income requirements.
Now, before we get too far into the details, we want to remind you that we have all the links to the resources we're discussing right on the page below, so you can follow along and check them out later.
Exactly. We'll be mentioning a lot of programs and initiatives, and you can find all those links in one easy spot.
All right, so in this deep dive, we're going to break down the general eligibility guidelines, focusing on how income and location play a role.
That's right.
We'll also give you some real-life examples of programs that can help with various projects, from fixing windows to repairing your roof. And of course, we'll guide you on where to start your search to find the assistance that's right for you.
Sounds good. Let's jump in.
Okay, so first things first, who can get this help? What are the general eligibility rules?
Like we mentioned earlier, most of these programs are really designed to help those who need it most.
Makes sense.
So that means seniors, veterans, people with disabilities, and those who meet certain income thresholds will often be given priority.
So it's about directing those limited resources where they can have the most impact.
Exactly. And it's important to keep in mind that a lot of these programs operate on a first-come, first-served basis.
Oh, so if you snooze, you lose.
Pretty much. Demand often exceeds the available funding, so if you think you might qualify, it's always best to apply sooner rather than later.
Makes sense. Don't wait around.
Right. Now, we've been talking about general guidelines, but how specific does eligibility actually get?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
That's where things get a bit more detailed, and it really underscores why connecting with the programs in your specific area is crucial. Each program has its own set of eligibility criteria, so what might work for one person might not work for another.
So there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. However, we can give you a general overview based on income and whether you live in a city or suburban setting versus a rural area. So, if you're in a city or suburb and you fall into the low income category, you'll probably find resources through HUD programs, the Weatherization Assistance Program, WAP, which focuses on energy efficiency, as well as initiatives run by your city or county, state level programs, disaster relief funds if there's been a disaster, and various community based organizations.
And what if you're in a city or suburb, but you have a medium or higher income? Are there still options?
Absolutely. In that case, you might be looking more at home improvement loans, some state level programs that aren't strictly income based, disaster assistance if your home has been affected, and even some HUD programs might have options for those with slightly higher incomes.
Okay, good to know. And what about homeowners in rural areas?
Well, for rural homeowners with low incomes, there are similar types of support, but there's a bigger emphasis on programs offered by the USDA. They have a bunch of initiatives specifically geared towards helping people in rural areas repair and improve their homes. You'll also find WWAP, city and county programs, even rural residents are part of a county after all, state programs, disaster relief, and community organizations that focus on rural communities.
And what if you're in a rural area but have a medium to higher income?
In those cases, you'll likely find options through USDA programs, home improvement loans, and state initiatives. Again, disaster relief would be a factor if applicable.
You know, something we found really interesting was that a lot of city and county programs determine eligibility based on the median income for their specific area.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. It means someone considered moderate incomes statewide might actually qualify for local programs if they live in a more affluent area where the median income is higher.
It definitely shows how important it is to check with your local city or county, no matter what you think your income level is.
Don't make assumptions. Check it out.
All right, so let's move on to some real-world examples. I know a lot of people are probably thinking, okay, but what if I have a specific problem, like my windows need replacing? Is there a certain type of program I should look for? So let's break down some programs based on the type of repair or improvement you might need.
That's a great way to look at it.
So let's start with windows.
All right. For window repair or replacement, we found about 8 different programs that could help. For folks with lower incomes in cities and suburbs, funding might come from HUD, state programs, those city and county initiatives, WP, community organizations, or even disaster relief.
And what about rural residents?
Rural residents with low incomes might be able to tap into those USDA programs on top of the state, city, county, WP, community groups, and disaster aid.
Got it. And for those with medium to higher incomes?
For both rural and urban areas in that income bracket, state programs, disaster relief, and home improvement loans are worth looking into.
Okay, that covers windows. Now, what about roofs? We all know how important a solid roof is.
Absolutely essential. And for roof repair or replacement, we found about 7 programs that might be relevant. So, lower income homeowners in cities and suburbs, HUD, state programs, city and county initiatives, community organizations, and disaster relief might be able to help.
In rural areas?
Similar story. Lower income homeowners in rural areas could look to USDA programs along with state, city, county, community groups, and disaster assistance.
And what about for those with higher incomes?
Once again, in both rural and urban settings, state programs, disaster relief, and home improvement loans could be options.
Okay, moving on. What about foundation issues? Those can be pretty serious and expensive to fix.
They definitely can be. And we found about 7 programs that might be able to help with foundation repair. So if you're in a city or suburb and have a lower income, potential sources include HUD, state programs, city-county efforts, community organizations, and disaster relief.
Rural homeowner.
In rural areas, lower-income homeowners might be able to access help through USDA, state, city-county, community groups, and disaster aid.
What about those with higher incomes?
For both urban and rural folks in that income bracket, state programs, disaster relief, and home improvement loans are generally the go-to options.
So we've covered the outside of the house. Let's move inside to some of those essential utilities. Electrical and plumbing. Nobody wants to be without those.
You got that right. And luckily, there are a good number of programs that could help with those repairs. So if you're a lower income homeowner in a city or suburb, HUD, state programs, city-county initiatives, community organizations, and disaster relief are all potential sources of funding.
And what about our rural listeners?
For rural folks with lower incomes, you might find assistance through USDA, state, city-county, community groups, and disaster aid.
Okay, and for those with higher incomes, both urban and rural.
Same story as before. State programs, disaster relief, and home improvement loans are generally the best bets.
All right, moving on to heating and cooling. Staying comfortable year-round is so important, and HVAC systems can be pricey to fix or replace.
They sure can be. But the good news is there are actually even more options for HVAC assistance, about 9 programs in total.
That's great to hear.
The breakdown is similar to electrical and plumbing. So for lower-income homeowners in cities and suburbs, you've got HUD, state programs, city-county programs, community organizations, and disaster relief. And for lower-income folks in rural areas, USDA programs are available in addition to state, city-county, community groups, and disaster aid.
And for those with higher incomes, both urban and rural.
State programs, disaster relief, and home improvement loans are the usual suspects in those cases.
Now, let's talk about some potential health hazards that might be lurking in your home. Asbestos, lead paint, and lead pipes.
Nobody wants to deal with those. It's scary stuff.
It really is.
But there are about 5 programs that could help with the removal of those hazardous materials. So whether you're in a city or suburb or rural area and have a lower income, potential funding sources include HUD, state programs, city and county initiatives, community organizations, and disaster relief.
What about those with higher incomes?
You know, it's interesting, but it seems like similar funding sources might be available for those folks as well, maybe because of the serious health risks involved.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's good to know that there might be help available regardless of income level when it comes to those health hazards.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's shift gears to another potentially big expense. Sewer and water line repair or replacement.
Oh, yeah. Those can really hit you in the wallet.
For sure.
So for lower income homeowners in both cities and suburbs and rural areas, you might be able to find assistance through HUD, state programs, city-county efforts, community organizations, and disaster relief. And for those with higher incomes, the typical options are state programs, disaster relief, and those home improvement loans we keep talking about.
Now, something we found interesting was that there are even programs that might help with home remodeling, not just repairs.
Yeah, that caught my eye too. It's not just about fixing what's broken, but also about making your home more functional and comfortable.
And we found about 7 programs that could fall into that category.
Yeah.
So if your home needs significant repairs and you have a lower income, whether you're in a city or suburb or a rural area, HUD, city-county programs, state initiatives, community organizations, and disaster relief could potentially help.
And for higher income folks.
State programs, disaster relief, and home improvement loans are the usual suspects. Now let's talk about bathroom remodels. It's not just about aesthetics, it's about making sure your bathroom is sanitary and safe.
Absolutely. And there are programs that can help with that. So if you need to bring your bathroom up to code and you have a lower income, whether you're in an urban or a rural area, you might find help through HUD, city-county programs, state initiatives, community organizations, and disaster relief.
What about for those with higher incomes?
For those folks, it's usually HUD, state programs, disaster relief, and home improvement loans.
Now, we can't forget about accessibility. It's so important for people to be able to move around their homes safely and comfortably no matter their age or ability.
Couldn't agree more.
And there are a bunch of programs, about 9 in total, that focus specifically on home modifications for people with disabilities and for seniors.
That's fantastic. These modifications can be life-changing.
They really can be. So for those with disabilities who have lower incomes, whether they live in a city or suburb or a rural area, they could potentially access funding through HUD, city-county programs, state initiatives, community organizations, and disaster relief. And for those with higher incomes, it's usually HUD, state programs, disaster relief, and home improvement loans that might be able to help.
And it's important to know what those modifications might include. We're talking about installing ramps, making adjustments to bathrooms and kitchens, adding grab bars, widening doorways, things like that.
And what about home modifications specifically for seniors?
It's a very similar situation. Lower income seniors in both urban and rural areas might find assistance through HUD, city-county programs, state initiatives, community organizations, and disaster relief. And for higher income seniors, you've got USDA programs, state programs, disaster relief, and home improvement loans. It's also worth mentioning that your local area agency on aging can be a fantastic resource for connecting seniors with home repair and modification programs. They're the experts.
That's good to know. Now, we've talked about a lot of different programs based on the type of repair, But the information we looked at also broke things down by homeowner groups. So let's talk about those for a minute.
Sure, that's a helpful way to look at it too.
So for those living in cities and suburbs, there are about 9 programs specifically geared toward helping you guys. These often focus on lower-income residents and provide assistance through HUD, city-county programs, state initiatives, and community organizations. But there are also options for those with medium and higher incomes in cities and suburbs through HUD, state programs, and home improvement loans.
And then you've got those programs specifically designed for rural homeowners.
Right, and for those folks, the USDA is a major player. They offer both grants and loans to help people in rural areas with home repairs and improvements. In fact, we found some average figures, about $9,220 for grants and $4,540 for loans. Pretty substantial.
That's a decent chunk of change.
It is. Now, to qualify for these USDA programs, you typically need to be the homeowner and actually live in the house. You have to be unable to get credit elsewhere, and your family income needs to be below 50% of the area median income.
There are often some additional requirements for the grants, too.
Right. For grants specifically, you often have to be 62 or older and unable to repay a loan.
Right. And the loan limits can go up to $40,000 and grant limits up to $10,000, but the combined maximum is $50,000.
Good to know. And those USDA loans usually have a 20-year term at a 1% interest rate, which is pretty amazing. But keep in mind that if you get a grant and sell your property within 3 years, you might have to repay it.
Right. Those are the rules. But the good news is you can apply for these USDA programs year-round through your local USDA Rural Development Office.
So no need to wait for a specific application window.
Exactly.
Now, what about when disaster strikes? We know Virginia can get hit with some pretty rough weather from time to time.
Oh, yeah, we've seen it all.
So if you're dealing with the aftermath of a hurricane, flood, or other disaster, FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, can step in to help.
They're the heroes in those situations.
They really are. They can provide assistance to homeowners in those affected areas, and that might include grants for home repairs to make your primary residence safe, sanitary, and livable again.
Just what you need after a disaster.
For sure. And you'll want to check the FEMA website if your area has been declared a disaster zone because that triggers their assistance programs.
Right. It all depends on that declaration.
Now, on top of FEMA, the Small Business Administration, or SBA, also offers low-interest disaster loans to homeowners.
Now, you might be thinking, wait, I'm not a business owner.
Exactly.
But these SBA loans are available to help homeowners repair or replace damaged or destroyed real estate and personal property, even if you don't own a business.
So it's definitely worth looking into those SBA loans if you've been affected by a disaster.
Absolutely.
Okay, last but not least, we need to talk about our veterans.
They deserve all the support we can give them.
Absolutely. And there are a number of programs specifically for veterans to help them with home repair and rehabilitation. In fact, we found about 7 programs that might be relevant.
It's great to see that commitment.
Now, the Department of Veterans Affairs, the VA, offers grants to help veterans with certain service-connected disabilities adapt their homes to meet their needs.
Right. Programs like the Specially Adapted Housing Grant and the Special Housing Adaptation Grant are specifically for that.
And those are just from the VA itself. It's important to remember that veterans are also generally eligible for many of the other home improvement programs we've been discussing today.
Don't forget about those other options.
Now, one program we wanted to highlight is the Granting Freedom Program, a partnership between Virginia Housing and the Department of Veteran Services.
That's a good one.
It provides grants of up to $8,000 for home modifications for veterans with disabilities.
Fantastic.
So those are just a few examples of programs specifically for veterans. Now, to give you an even better understanding of what's out there, we wanted to walk you through a few specific program examples just to illustrate the variety and show you what's possible.
Sounds good.
Let's start with HUD. They have a program called the title Property Improvement Loan Program, which can be a great option if you don't have enough equity for a traditional home equity loan.
Right, because those can be tough to get.
The FHA actually insures these loans, which makes lenders more willing to offer them. And you can typically borrow up to $25,000 for improvements on a single-family home.
It's a pretty decent amount.
It is. HUD also has a program called the 203K Rehabilitation Mortgage Insurance, which is really interesting because it allows you to finance both the purchase or refinancing of a home and the cost of eligible renovations all in one mortgage.
So you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Exactly. And there are different options depending on how extensive those renovations are going to be. A key feature of these HUD programs is that the renovation funds are typically held in an escrow account. and are released to the contractor in stages as the work is completed and inspected.
So you're not just handing over a big chunk of money all at once.
Right, it provides some financial protection.
For sure.
Okay, let's talk about Virginia Housing. They were involved in that Granting Freedom program for veterans we mentioned earlier.
Right, they do a lot of great work.
They have a few other programs worth mentioning, too. So we already talked about Granting Freedom, which offers grants of up to $8,000 for accessibility modifications, like ramps and grab bars for disabled veterans. But they also have a program called Virginia Housing's Accessibility Grants, which can provide up to $8,000 to renters to make their homes more accessible.
So it's not just for homeowners.
Exactly. These grants focus on similar modifications like grab bars and ramps, and they're a great resource for people who don't own their homes but still need help making them more accessible. And most importantly, both of these are grant programs, so there's no repayment required.
That's huge.
It really is. Now, what about the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development, also known as DHCD?
They've got some important programs, too.
They do. One of their key programs is called Indoor Plumbing Rehabilitation, and it offers forgivable loans to low and moderate income homeowners who either don't have complete indoor plumbing or have major system failures.
Like a broken HVAC system or a leaky roof.
Exactly. And the forgivable part means that if certain conditions are met, you don't have to repay the full loan amount. They also have a program called Emergency Home and Accessibility Repair, which can provide up to $4,000 to address urgent health, safety, and accessibility issues.
So if you need help right away, this could be a good option.
It could be. However, this program does have an income limit, usually 80% of the area median income, and it operates on a first-come, first-served basis.
So you have to act fast.
Absolutely. Don't wait around on those urgent repairs. Now, earlier we mentioned the Weatherization Assistance Program, or WOP.
Yeah, that one's all about energy efficiency.
It is. It's a federally funded program that's administered by the states, and it focuses on making homes more energy efficient, which can lower your utility bills and make your home more comfortable and safe.
So it's a win-win.
Exactly. WABE can help with things like adding insulation, sealing up those drafty spots, and repairing or replacing inefficient heating and cooling systems.
It's a pretty comprehensive program.
It is. And the average investment per home through WP in Virginia is around $8,002, which is pretty significant.
That's not chump change.
Not at all. Now, there's also a related program called Weatherization Deferral Repair, or WDR, which is designed to address those smaller repairs that might be preventing a home from qualifying for the full weatherization services offered by WP.
So it's like a pre-qualifying program.
Exactly. It can help you get your home ready for those bigger energy efficiency upgrades.
Makes sense.
Now, what about programs specifically for seniors and elders?
Well, there's a program called Home Modification and Repair that's often managed by your local area agency on aging.
Those agencies are great resources for seniors, aren't they?
They really are. They can connect seniors with all sorts of services, including help with home repairs. And these repairs are all about making their homes safer and more accessible, helping them prevent falls, and allowing them to age in place comfortably and independently.
That's so important. Now, we can't forget about all the community organizations that are doing this amazing work across the state. We found so many of them.
They're the backbone of a lot of these efforts.
They really are. And these nonprofits often target specific needs or focus on certain geographic areas. So, for example, there's Project Homes, which serves the Richmond region and offers critical repairs, lead paint hazard reduction, wheelchair ramps, and energy conservation upgrades.
They do a lot.
They do. And then there's SURCAP, the Southeast Rural Community Assistance Project, which focuses on helping people in rural areas with things like plumbing, lead reduction, septic, and well issues. They also offer home improvement loans with more flexible credit terms.
So if your credit isn't perfect, they might be able to help.
They might. And then there's the big one, Habitat for Humanity, which has local affiliates all across Virginia. They provide a wide range of repair assistance to low-income, disabled, and elderly homeowners, and they often use materials from their restorers, which offer affordable building supplies.
So it's a double whammy, help with the repairs and affordable materials.
Exactly. And then there's Rebuilding Together, which has local chapters in areas like Richmond and Northern Virginia. They mobilize volunteers to provide home repairs, weatherization, and accessibility modifications.
It's amazing what they can accomplish with volunteers.
It really is. There's also the Appalachia Service Project, which relies on volunteers to help folks in the Appalachian region with home repairs.
It's a really special program.
It is. And then there's VCCATP, the Virginia Community Action Partnership, which is a network of local community action agencies that serve every county in Virginia.
So no matter where you live in Virginia, there's a VC-CAP agency nearby.
That's comforting to know. And then there's Rooftop Virginia, which focuses on plumbing and emergency repairs in specific counties.
So if you have a plumbing emergency, they might be able to help.
They might. And last but not least, there's People Inc., which offers loans and grants in several southwestern Virginia counties. This is just a small sampling of the many community organizations out there doing incredible work.
It's inspiring to see.
It really is. Now, we can't leave out the local programs offered by Virginia counties and cities themselves.
They're on the front lines.
They are. And we found that there could be close to 50 of these local initiatives.
Wow, that's a lot.
So, for example, Fairfax County has a program called Home Repair for the Elderly that helps seniors with minor repairs and accessibility upgrades.
Great program.
It is. And then Prince William County has a program called Project Mendy House, which focuses on helping low-income homeowners with a wide range of repairs and modifications. They also partner with Habitat for Humanity on some repair programs.
So there are often collaborations between these organizations.
Right, they're all working together. And Virginia Beach offers grants for homeowners and those living in mobile homes to help with health, safety, and accessibility improvements.
So there are options for both homeowners and renters.
There are. And Loudoun County has a grant program called HARP. They participate in the Granting Freedom Initiative, and they also have Habitat for Humanity repair services available.
So lots of resources in Loudoun County.
There are. And Chesterfield and Henrico counties often team up with local nonprofits to provide critical home repairs.
It's all about collaboration.
It is. And many cities, like Arlington, Norfolk, Richmond, Alexandria, and Hampton, have their own unique programs for rehabilitation, accessibility, and weatherization, with names like Renovate Norfolk and Home Rehabilitation Energy Efficiency in Alexandria, as well as Home Deferred Rehabilitation in Hampton.
Those are great program names.
They are. It's a good reminder that it's always worth checking with your local city or county to see what programs they offer, even if you don't see them listed in a general resource guide.
You never know what you might find.
Exactly. And don't be intimidated by all the different terms you might come across.
It can be a little overwhelming.
It can. You'll see words like grants, programs, assistance, relief service, and repair assistance. But ultimately, they all mean the same thing. They're there to help homeowners with those essential repairs.
Don't get lost in the jargon. Just remember that the goal is to support homeowners.
Exactly. And if you found this information helpful, we'd really appreciate it if you could give us a like, a thumbs up, or share this deep dive with anyone you think might benefit from knowing about these resources.
Spread the word.
The more people who know about these programs, the better.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, it's truly amazing to see just how many resources are dedicated to helping homeowners here in Virginia. Those over 160 programs are a testament to the commitment to safe and healthy housing for everyone.
It's heartening to see.
It really is. Now, the most important step is to take action. So we encourage you to visit the links we've compiled for you on the page below. You can explore the programs we talked about today in more detail and, most importantly, find contact information for local organizations and agencies in your area.
They'll be able to give you the most up-to-date information and help you figure out how to apply.
Exactly. And remember, there's potential help out there for a wide range of needs. Those must-do repairs, modifications to improve accessibility and make your home safer, and even upgrades to boost your home's energy efficiency.
And these resources are available to people across different income levels, whether you live in a bustling city or a quiet rural community.
Everyone deserves a safe and comfortable home.
Absolutely.
So as a final thought, we want you to consider this. How could accessing one of these resources not only improve your home, but also contribute to your overall well-being and financial stability? What's that one small repair you've been putting off that might now be within reach?
It's worth thinking about.
It is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Don't forget to check out those resources and links on the page below. We'll see you next time.